Hey, and Frank, I think the number one, and you and I probably talk to more loan officers than anybody I know of on a weekly basis. And Frank, it's just mind blowing. The number one challenge that I see with top producing loan officers is they're still chasing conditions in their files.
I just sent a little email out with a very short video. It was only about less than a minute long, and I titled it, "Are you tired of being your processor's processor?"
I don't
Eh,
mean to laugh, but it's so true.
You know how many people, you
Your
know what response I
processor's
got to
assistant.
this? I've
I
already
bet a
got people
bunch.
scheduling appointments with me because, like, yes, I'm
Yeah,
tired of
I'm
being
so
my
tired.
processor's processor. Steve, why is the industry like this? It's like,
Mm,
it's like, you've said it on another podcast that we did. It's like this industry, for some reason, just seems to believe that the loan officer is responsible for everything, right?
hmm. Yeah.
Fully, it's on the loan officer's shoulders, everything. And I believe to a certain extent, okay, yes, it all starts and stops with me, but I'm in control of my business, which means I need to be in control of who I'm working with, what those team members do. Everybody needs to know their roles. I need to know my role. You need to know
Yeah.
your role. Ultimately, I'm the leader of the ship. I get it, right? You know what I mean? But I don't want to be my processor's processor.
Mm.
Man, I've been doing this for 37 years. There's nothing worse than having to do administrative, chase the paperwork, BS,
Hey,
okay,
Frank, I need you to call that
as an
client. Can you
originator.
get page four of the bank
Oh yeah.
statement?
Oh,
Hey,
we
Frank.
can't submit it because we're missing page four. You're gonna have to go and get that. I'm gonna have
Yeah,
to go and get
and
that.
I've called them once and they didn't respond, and now we got to close in 3 days, and we're up
Right.
against the
Well, they
timeline.
didn't
And
call me
hey,
back. So
yeah, and if you don't get it, then you're going to have to back up closing a little bit. And by the way, can you call title and check on where the appraisal's at?
right. Yeah. Why so basically, okay, you want me to get stuff so I can hand it to you so you can hand it to the underwriter? Like why,
Yeah.
why don't I just hand it to the underwriter? Why do I need you?
Hey, you know
I
where I
mean,
think
you're
some
just
of
in the
that came
middle of
from?
this, so
Mhm.
that is, here's what I said on that video. I said, if that's your experience, I'm sorry. I'm sure it's a great company. I'm sure they're great, but sometimes even great companies can kind of miss the mark a little bit,
Mm,
right? And I just said, it's just unacceptable.
mm,
It's just unacceptable.
hmm.
There's no place in it in origination. There's not. Not if you want an originator to originate. You cannot have that salesperson
Yeah.
chasing paperwork. It
Mhm.
just is ridiculous. It's
Yeah.
just a dumb notion. If you have a processor, the processor is quote unquote processing. What does that mean? Gathering paperwork, organizing it, getting it to the decision maker so that the decision can be made. And when the decision is made, if there's something else that's needed, then that person needs to go get that as fast as
Yes.
possible. And by the way, that person is not just a email requesting it and the file's put
Right.
into a drawer and forgotten about for 4 days. No, that needs to be, processors need to be as tenacious as loan originators. They really
Mm.
do. They need to be wildly tenacious. They have to be like, this deal's dependent upon me getting this stuff into this file. I need to go get it. I'm going to send an email. I'm going to make a phone call. If I don't get response, I'm going to wait an hour and I'm going to check again. You know what I mean? Or wait two
Yeah.
hours and I'm going to check again because the buck stops there. And if it stops, everything gets derailed. Now
Mm.
what? Now you go to your loan officer and go, "Hey man, I reached out to them. Can you?" They didn't get back to me, so because I have other things to do over here.
Mm.
So can you take up my load, please? I mean, not right. It's
Hey, but Frank, it's not my
not right.
job. It's not my job. I need you to stay on top of this file. I'll get it submitted to underwriting, and you need to make sure you got all the details right.
Yeah, no, man. It's here's the sad truth. The sad truth. I'll bet you, and I don't have the. Well, you know what they say: 83% of all statistics are made up on the spot,
Right, right.
right? Including that one. But I would bet it's a pretty high percentage of loan officers that are in that situation
Mm.
where you're basically your processor's processor, and people feel
Yeah.
like it's not their job to do certain things, and it's just there needs to be a revolution, Steve.
Hey, so
There
Frank,
needs
how do
to
we
be a
change that?
stark
Yeah,
reminder of whose
yeah,
roles are what.
yeah. Hey, well, how do we change that, Frank? So look, what I hear in, because look, most people think it's just the way it is. Like, you know what? It's part of my job. I have someone I'm working with right now, Frank. They're closing a lot of loans. Like, I mean, a lot of loans. And I talked to my friend. He's a friend of mine, and he's spending 10 to 15 hours a week still processing his own loans, and he's like crushing it, like a lot of loans. And why do you think people why do you think loan officers
Put up with
continue
it.
to do and do the processing work? Part of what I hear is like, hey, but my company said they won't give me an assistant. I was talking to another loan officer. She said, hey, my company won't give me an assistant to help me on the back end process my loans till I get to 6 consistent 3 months in a row.
Hey there, if you're loving the tips so far, make sure to hit that subscribe button and then click on the bell as well so you never miss out on more cool free tips coming your way. And also, would love to hear from you. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think or what you want to see next.
And you
Well,
know what
then,
she did? She hit 6, 7, and 2.
and then couldn't
You,
get it.
you know why? Because there's too many loans.
There's
Like,
too
I
many
mean,
left.
so she went
And
from
she's
six
doing
to
all the
seven
work.
to
Right.
2. And she's like, I just missed it by 1 month. And I'm like, does that bother you? Like, you're building momentum. And because there's no help doing the busy work, you just went from 6 to momentum of 7 back down to where you started. And you got to start all over again. Why? Because you were chasing conditions instead of doing what you did to get 6 and 7 loans a month.
Mm.
Isn't that, I mean, like, I think loan officers
It
just,
doesn't make sense. It's weird because it's,
they
it's
don't know more
with,
is available. There is more available. You don't have to go chasing the conditions.
mm,
There's people and teams where literally when you lock it in and hand it off, Frank, guess what?
you're
They
done.
want you out of the file.
Yeah. Stay away.
Yeah, go get more loans.
Go
We'll
get
we'll
another
close
deal.
these loans.
We need you to get another deal so we
Yeah.
can stay employed. So,
So
go
somebody who's
get the
facing
deal.
that, what
Yeah.
do they do? Like, what do they do? How do they change it where they're currently at? Or what are other solutions?
Well, I think, number one, there has to be a conversation, right? There has to be a conversation. And if you're an originator and you've got a manager per
Yeah.
se, right? That conversation has to kind of start there. And you've got to have that chat and say, hey man, look, I just feel like when after I lock a loan and I turn it in, I'm just getting sucked back into the back end of the deal. And
Yeah.
I'm feeling like maybe,
Mm.
on the processing side and on the closing side that they could take on these responsibilities of getting the paperwork together or reaching out and being tenacious about getting documents in just because then, I mean, I'd really rather be making more calls
Mm.
and getting more deals than doing that. So I think number one, if you're in a situation like that, it does start with having that conversation, with your team, starting with your manager. And hopefully your manager is open to that notion and open to that idea, right? And can then have a conversation with everybody, right? Get you in, get the processing
Yeah.
team in. Look, man, we
Yeah.
need to restructure,
Mhm.
we need to make it more effective for this person or these people, these loan officers, to go out and do more selling. So with that in mind, you guys are going to need to start doing this, and start doing
Mhm.
it this way.
Mhm.
And then you can find out if some things might rise to the surface where you realize, wow, maybe I don't have the right people here,
Yeah.
and
Hey,
and you have to change.
yeah, and you know what I was just thinking too? It goes back, you go back to your manager and say, what would need to happen to keep me out of the files? And then
Mm,
go back with the data. Hey, listen, I'm spending 2 hours a day, Monday through Thursday, prospecting. Here's my lead count. Here's the volume. Here's the sales activity. If I wasn't doing the busy work, I could literally get more loans. What's more profitable for our branch or team? Doing busy work at $20 to $25 an hour or
mhm.
getting more deals?
Right.
And I would just very directly ask what would need to happen to make sure that when I hand off a file, I'm
I
not
don't
in the
have to get
back
back
of
into
it.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Frank, I think two things are going to happen. One, they're going to be on board because they see your activity and your sales, and they're
They'll
going to
get
say,
buy-in.
"Wow, you're doing
Hmm.
the work. Let's support you so you can go get more loans." Or number two, Frank, it's going to be this: "Hey, that's not the way we do it here."
Hmm.
And I don't like from all the people we talk to, there's only one of two ways. They recognize it and they want to support you, or number two, they're never going to change because culture is like a current. You're either going against it or you're
Hmm.
riding with it.
Hmm.
And if there's a reality, and I say it like this, once you have an awareness, you can't unsee what you see.
Hmm.
And when you realize, hey, it's never going to change here, I think at that point you got to make a choice.
Yeah.
Either I'm going to choose to stay stuck in the busy work and do low payoff, low income activities,
Hmm.
Or I really believe that if the busy work were not on me, I would be able to get even more closings, make more money, and have more financial freedom. And so I choose. And I think at that point, you got to recognize either it will change or it won't. But now you have a choice: either be stuck in the busy work or make a decision to identify another group who is already proactively pulling the busy work off of the loan
Right,
officers and
right,
branch
right. Well, that
managers.
that's why I so appreciate what you've set up with the network.
Yeah.
This national network that you put together of originators, where that's one of the core focuses is
Oh, yeah.
making sure that the back end is handled. Right.
That's it.
That's such an important thing because
Yeah.
how else can we get the originator out there selling?
Hmm.
The best way is to make sure that once the deal's turned in, they don't
They're
have
out
to
of the
worry about it
box.
after that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really appreciate the network. It's pretty neat. But to anybody listening, originators listening, first things first.
Hey,
Number
what if
one,
what if they jumped on with you and they
oh, they
just you
could.
showed
Yeah,
them
just go to frankcall.com, frankcall.com. We
and
can
you can
spend
show
15
them
minutes.
what we're doing and see if they can implement it where they're currently at.
Exactly.
And
That's
if
the
they
right way
can,
to do
great.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and if not, then let's have a
Then we can
conversation.
have a conversation. Yeah, but
Yeah,
the right way to do it is to make sure you get your data together. You can
that's
present
right.
it to your manager,
Yep.
and make sure and see if you get the buy-in. Right. See if
Hmm.
they see it the right way, or if you get the sorry, we just don't do it that way here. And then again, you just have your choice. Then you got to decide what you want to do. But
Yeah.
yeah, just go to frankcall.com. We can have this discussion. But uh, boy, if you're tired of being your processor's processor,
What
you
a
just it's
when you said
unacceptable.
that, that just
You
kind
got
of
to make
turned
a
in my
change.
stomach. I was like, oh, that it's so true, man. Hey, but you just now that you know you don't have to be there needs to be a next step, and that next step is conversations about what's expected and then identifying whether or not it'll change in the
Right.
future.
That's it.
If not, then
Pretty
just make a
simple.
move.
It
Yeah,
is
that's
actually
easy.
pretty simple. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, man, it's always a
I
pleasure
don't want to
chatting
be
with you,
my
Steve.
processor's
I
processor,
don't want to be
man.
a processor
No.
either. It's not what I signed up for. Yeah.
That's not any fun.
Yeah.
And we're not any good at it. So
No, we're not. All right, man.
I
Have a great one, Steve. To the rest of you, catch you next time here at Mortgage Loan Officer Podcast. We'll see you.
see
Later.
you.